the Bookkeeping Business Launch really talks a lot about virtual bookkeeping. And I thought to myself, if I can do this and I can do it virtually, it's something that I enjoy doing. It's something I like, something I have a background in. Why not? So that's kind of how I ended up with the business.
I love bookkeeping.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is to you. This is Ben Robinson, and this is the I Love Bookkeeping show. And today I've got a very special guest with me that I'll get to here in just a second. But first and foremost, I want to thank you all for being great bookkeeping professionals, for listening to this show, because I know that you're fighting a good fight, and I know that the service level that you provide to your clients is very awesome. So thank you for being a loyal subscriber to the I Love Bookkeeping show, and also for being a great bookkeeping professional. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest with us today. And the reason that we have a guest on here is because, one, you would get tired of me talking about bookkeeping, right? So we always want to have people on who are interesting, learn their story, learn about what it's taken them to get to where they are today, and then help them with an opportunity or a challenge in their business. And so today, like always, or at least most of the time, we have a great guest with us. She has a bachelor's in economics. She has an MBA as well, so very smart. She's married with 2 kids. She has done a little bit of it all. She's been in retail management, asset management, banking management, lots of management here. So she says that she's moved a lot, and we are excited today to be joined by Elizabeth Olsen.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Elizabeth. You doing all right today?
I am. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So let's chat about this. Like, why in the world did you, after being in the different areas that you were in your life, why did you decide to become a bookkeeping professional?
So we had moved quite a bit, and every time we move, you've got the whole, what am I going to do here? And we also have little children. And so, we always talk about your why. And, my kids are my why, and I want to spend time with them. And, how do you keep transitioning from job to job and knowing that you're going to, possibly leave again? And the Bookkeeping Business Launch really talks a lot about virtual bookkeeping. And I thought to myself, if I can do this and I can do it virtually, it's something that I enjoy doing. It's something I like, something I have a background in. Why not? So that's kind of how I ended up with the business.
Okay. All right. So the virtual aspect, and obviously, like you said, being able to pick up and go and move and do what you want, that's something that wasn't even available 5 years ago. But is today and will be well into the future. It's just kind of expected now. Whereas 5 years ago, you told people you were a virtual provider, they would have looked at you like you were crazy.
Yeah.
But for the most part now, people are over that notion and they understand that. So I applaud that. Okay, so you went through Bookkeeper Business Launch. When did you start that program?
So I kind of had a slow start. I signed up in August of 2017. And I didn't really do much with it because it was so busy. As I started the school year, everything's going crazy. But it was always in the back of my mind. And the reason I had signed up when I did is I kept telling people, I want to start a virtual bookkeeping business. And, there's this class I could take. I can't decide if I should do it. And people said, I'll hire you. Do it. And I was like, oh, okay. You'll hire me. Cool. So I signed up. And then in November of that year, I opened my LLC. Because I'm kind of the type of person that has to have everything in order before I'll step off that cliff. And so I did that, got all of that stuff done. And then in June of 18, I signed my first client. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it was a slow process to get there, but I wasn't rushing myself, and I just took my time.
Okay. Gotcha. And how many clients do you serve now?
Currently, I have 7 clients.
7 clients. Okay. So in less than a year, you have built up a 7-client business, and that's really good, right? Where do you want to take this? What's your vision for the business in a few years?
So my vision is to have it somewhere where I don't have to be involved in the day-to-day operation. So I want to grow big enough that I'm able to, support taking on other people. But I don't want to be so big that I'm the one that's not talking to the clients about their financial statements. You often talk about, what is it you most enjoy? And the thing that I most enjoy about, what I do is the conversation each month with the clients over their financial statements and showing them the big aha moments, like, did you realize, or how look how much you're spending here, those type of things. So yeah, so my goal is in a couple of years to have somebody else doing all the legwork and I can do the fun stuff.
Okay. So at this point, is it a financial necessity, or is it building it for the sake of building it? What's kind of the fuel behind you right now?
The fuel behind me right now is to be successful. To be honest, like I challenge myself. I have the ability to take my time with it, so I don't have where I'm at right now with the business. I don't need to push myself to get more clients to make more money. But if I want to grow, I need to take more clients so then I can have the money to grow. So it's kind of that. I'm in that point.
Okay. All right. So you said something there. You want to be successful. How do you define success? What's success to you?
So success to me is reaching your goals, reaching your vision with, I guess, doing it the way you want to do it. Not taking shortcuts or not being dishonest, but, getting where you want to be, to the vision that you've set, the goals that you've set, and getting there the right way.
I like it. I like it. As Frank Sinatra said, I did it my way, right? So
there you go.
Yeah. That's awesome. So let's talk about kind of a day in the life of Elizabeth here. Kind of walk us through, like, what's a typical day look like for you now that you have your virtual bookkeeping business and all your other obligations?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on, the time of month that we're at as far as bookkeeping goes, because, as you know, and as other bookkeepers out there know, the beginning of the month is getting all the financial statements from the previous month, and you're getting all of that done. So a typical day for me, if you want the whole nitty gritty, I get up, get my kids to school, come back, kind of settle in. I use a CRM platform where it shows me my schedule and what I have due, what I have coming up, what I have for each of my projects. And so I kind of take a glance over that and see, where I need to focus today. And then based off where I'm at in the month, I either get on going through actual bookkeeping, or I start going through the financial reports and doing all that. And then more recently, I've started to take some time during my day and working on developing my business and putting all the systems in place so that when I do grow, everything is ready. So we kind of touched on that earlier. Like,
Smart.
I in order. So I'll take some time of my day to go through and say, okay, what am I doing for scheduling? What am I doing for this? Have I started to document my processes? And then about 3:00, I'm done. And I transition over. The kids are coming home and we get into evenings and sports and go from there.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's awesome. Could you ever, do you think, see yourself going back to working for someone now that you've tasted this?
Never.
Never.
No, nope, never.
Yeah.
No, I really think an important part of doing this is you have to be self-motivated, and it's lonely, so it's kind of yourself. But we have the great, I can't thank you enough, like the Facebook group and, the other bookkeepers out there. We have a network and you can talk to each other. So you have the support system. So it doesn't feel like you're out there by yourself. And so you do get a little bit of that. Hey, I'm still working with some people, even though we're not working together. I don't know. It's weird, but no, I could never go back.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And it is, that's an important point, is that, people I want to work from home and I want to do this. And then after a couple of days, you're like, wait, this is kind of lonely. There's not anybody else here to chat with. I'm talking to myself, and become a little bit like crazy in that regard. But that's kind of the thing that we want, the freedom, flexibility. It also has another side to it, which is a little bit of loneliness. But you mentioned, having our group that we have, or others that you can chat with and grow with and bounce things off of. That's incredibly important to your success. So
that's
now, looking back over the course of the last, let's say, 18 months since you started this journey, is there anything that you wish that you would have known, or anything that you wish you would have done different?
So the one thing, and I think we'll probably get to it more in more depth later, is I'm not very good at marketing, and I'm not very good at putting myself out on social media. And so I think if I would have realized the importance of that earlier, being the social media aspect, I would have put more time and effort into that when I did. I really didn't start using that until January of this year.
Okay.
And that was a big step for me just because I'm not very comfortable with that. But had I known how powerful it was, I would have done it sooner.
I'm curious, what makes you say that you're not good at marketing?
It's very uncomfortable for me to go out there and talk about myself and say, "Hey, I'm so great, come here." And so for me, that's the difficult part for me. I'm not good at selling myself. I think once I start working with people, then it's easy. But the actual putting myself out there in this vast land and trying to find people that way is intimidating for me.
Yeah, it is for most people, especially those that, are great bookkeeping professionals. We can call ourselves introverts or whatever. And, these are quote unquote excuses or reasons and that sort of thing. But kind of it's a double-edged sword, right? It's kind of like the freedom and flexibility. We want that, but on the other side of that, and then what makes you such a great bookkeeping professional is kind of limits you, at least in your brain. It's self-limiting beliefs on who you are and what you are. So we're always caught in this dichotomy. We're always caught in this yin and yang of like the asset becomes a liability in this case. But hey, you've done it anyway, though, right? Because you didn't just get 7 clients by thinking them up. You've done some stuff, right?
Right. No, and that's it was really cool because once I started to put myself out there, my net, I guess, got bigger. So the first clients that I were taking on were a lot of word of mouth or CPA referrals, that type of thing. And my more recent clients have all been either through I gained my advanced pro advisor through QuickBooks. So I've been getting more hits on my pro advisor profile. And I've also found people through Facebook groups, which I had never done before. And so that's been pretty cool to see. Yeah, your market gets a lot bigger when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there because, I know that makes you uncomfortable, but it's one of those things that if you are not comfortable marketing yourself, or you don't have to be comfortable, but if you can't feel the fear and do it anyway, as we say, as the book
Right.
says, this is not for you because at first, and a lot of being a business owner is about marketing. And if that makes you uncomfortable to the point where you will not take action, then you definitely don't want to be in this business or any business for that matter.
Right.
And it's okay to, if that's not you, right? But it is you. And that's what we're kind of going to be chatting about today. So, first of all, congratulations for where you built this business today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So let's talk about the future. You kind of gave me a vision for what it is that you want, but I'm sitting here looking at your application about the challenge opportunity that you want to go through, but why don't you tee that up for everybody else in the audience so that we know what we're going to be talking about here?
Okay. So what I asked Ben for help with was once you've picked your niche, how do you find quality leads within that niche? I kind of mentioned with him earlier, when I first started, I thought, he keeps saying we have to pick a niche, but won't that limit me? And for a long time, I kind of didn't pick a niche because I thought I wouldn't be able to find enough clients. But then once I got working and I saw the benefit of having a niche, when I had a couple clients that were in the same niche and they could ask me questions and I could answer them with a lot more authority and a lot more confidence, I thought, wow, there's really something to this. And then when my other clients started taking me a lot longer because I wasn't as familiar with the type of business that they have, I said, well, I could be a lot more efficient too if I had a niche. So it just kind of, everything kept kind of pointing to that. But then where I struggled initially, and I still kind of do, is how do you break into a niche and establish yourself as an authority when you're new? And that was kind of one of the challenges that I had. I was fortunate in that a lot of my clients were in that niche. So I was able to talk to other, business owners in that niche and have an authority, but it's still very intimidating. And, because they know their business inside and out. And, you're kind of sitting there, I hope I know it as well as you want me to. So that's kind of why I'm here today.
Okay. So, all right. So I love that getting because number one, I'm experiencing this in another business where I'm going into a space that I don't have authority, and I'm trying to establish that and to shortcut it and to make it not have to take 10 years or 20 years for that to happen. So I can speak to this from experience on two sides of things, right? So we can kind of
Right.
approach that. But before we do, what is your niche?
I work with interior designers and professional photographers.
Okay. All right. So we always talk about marketing, right? There's three elements of it. And you probably are going to gag because I say this all the time, but it's all about your market, your message, and your media. And market is the number one most important thing. So right now you have two niches. So first action item is to get that down to one.
Okay.
It is, if you do it right, right? There is plenty of interior designers or there's plenty of photographers. I probably would lend myself to the former, the interior designers and the photographers. But that's kind of the first thing that I would tell you to do is to really hone down on a niche and not two.
Okay.
Does that scare you?
No, because the design, I know as soon as you said it, it's an interior design. That's where I love working with them. And it's kind of funny because we laugh, their emails to me are all conversational and slowly, and my emails back are very bookkeeping like. I kind of laugh about that. But anyways, I very much enjoy working with them.
Okay. All right. So that's going to make your life infinitely easier because if you try to become an expert, an authority in both photography and interior designs, it's going to be not twice as hard, but probably 4 to 5 times as hard. And if people see you in both niches, they're going to be like, wait, I thought she was, in photography. No, she's interior design. So it's going to confuse the marketplace. But most important, It's going to confuse you. And we don't want that. We want things to be as simple as possible. There's enough complication and confusion in our lives. We don't need that. So that lever right there, going all in with interior design, will make all the difference in the world, in my opinion.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to talk about something that you mentioned earlier is that, hey, when I was considering my niche, I thought, you know what? I'm going to be limiting myself. And I've just told you to go and pretty much slash your potential market in half. But that is okay, right? We don't want to see this as limiting. Now, if you were saying, hey, I'm going to work with left-handed interior designers who, like to hop on one foot and play the banjo, yeah, that's a little bit too niche, right? There's probably 3 or 4 of them out there, but that's not your niche. But being at something like interior design, which I don't know anything about that industry, other than I've hired one before in my house because I'm a single guy and I don't know anything about decorating. But, I know that there's a lot of them out there.
Yes, there are. And I'm not, if you would have said this to me a couple months ago, yes, I would have very much been like, oh my gosh, no way. But no, now that I've been really focusing on, I guess, on 2 of them, breaking it down to one does not scare me. It's actually exciting. It's like, okay, cool.
Okay. All right. So that's the first thing we're gonna nail down. Now we can start focusing on all of our efforts becoming an authority in that space, right?
Right.
So we just cut your workload down by 80%. Now, just because you do that doesn't mean that's all puppy dogs and rainbows. There's work that you have to do, and I'll tell you, building your authority, building your credibility, building your trust within a new niche is not something that happens overnight. And all of the things that we're going to talk about here today are a long-term play. And so for you or for anybody else there that's thinking, you know what, I need to go get 20 clients tomorrow. These are not the methods for that. The methods for that are shortcuts, and they sometimes work. Most of the times they don't. And there's a lot of inefficiencies in there. But what we're going to be talking about is more of a long-term play. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So one of the first things that I would tell you is that you're now known as the bookkeeping professional for interior designers, or the interior designers bookkeeping professional. So one thing that I want you to do is to start thinking about a brand. And when we think about brand, we think about, a name and a logo, and that's part of it, but really it's just an identity. Like, who do you belong to? Who belongs to you? Who by looking at your name, by looking at your logo, by listening to the way that you speak, by reading your blog, by looking at your social media posts, can immediately say, Elizabeth is my person. Even if I'm an interior designer or not, you're my type of person. And then some interior designers will read what you put out there or listen to what you say, and they'll be put off by it. And that's fine. But we want to start to build this persona and this brand. Now, that's a long-term play, but that's one of the things that you want to do. And remember that your marketing is as much about repelling as it is attracting. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, you want to attract the right clients.
Exactly.
Not spend your time
right?
on the ones. Yeah.
So what you want to do is you really want to figure out, it's not just about interior designers, but who are your most ideal interior designers? Like you said, you work with 2 right now. Is that correct?
No. Of my 7 clients, 4 of them are in design.
Good. And out of the 4 of them, how many do you just love to serve?
All 4.
Oh, well, wow. We're okay. We're kicking butt here.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's why it was so easy for me to pick a niche. I looked at my clients and I was like, wow, I really love working with these guys. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the second exercise, right? You've already done the first one while we sat here on this recording today. So I'm proud of you for that, saying, hey, interior designers. But now what I want you to do is to reverse engineer what makes you really, really like to work with these 4 clients. And yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you broke up, so I missed it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, sell your house, sell everything you own. And no, I'm just playing. What I was saying is that what we want to do is reverse engineer what it is about these 4 clients that makes you really like to serve them.
Okay.
So what an exercise that I want you to do is to start listing attributes of each client. Right. So focus on one. Okay. Are they male, female? What's their age? Where do they live? What kind of interior design do they practice? What's their revenue? Do they have employees? Do they focus on a particular kind? I mean, think about any and everything on each client. What makes you smile when you see their email? What makes you smile when the phone rings? What makes you smile because you know that you have an appointment with them today? And what we're trying to do is to really reverse engineer what is your ideal client. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because what we want to do is we want to speak to them and speak to them only. So when you're writing a social media post, when you are doing a blog post or doing a video or doing a training, you're thinking about what we call your avatar, that person. We're not thinking about a market. We're thinking about an individual. So let's say that Sally is your favorite client and you reverse engineer everything about Sally. And now, when you're writing anything, when you're speaking in any way, the way that you brand yourself is you're thinking, would this appeal to Sally? I don't care about everybody else. I'm thinking about Sally. I'm thinking about that one person because that's my avatar. Because a lot of times what we do is we think we're talking to this broad market, but we're not. We're speaking to an individual. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, complete sense.
Okay. So we're thinking about that. Now, all of this again, right? Just by picking the niche and just by really reverse engineering who your ideal client is, and now saying that I'm Elizabeth Olsen, I only serve interior design professionals. That right there is compelling in and of itself, but it's not enough. But that right there differentiates you from 99% of every other bookkeeping professional out there. I can't tell you the number of clients that I got because I said, hey, I only work with dental professionals. I only work with dentists. And they're like, sign me up. Right. Now, it's not quite that easy anymore, but it is very compelling because very few people have the chutzpah to do that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're doing that. Now, let's talk about authority. All right. So how do you break in? It all starts with that market, though. How do you break into the Sally's, which is this fictional avatar that I've created for you here? How do I break into the Sally's? And that's all about, instant credibility, instant authority. And so there's a couple of ways in which to do that. Number one is to be everywhere, or where it seems to be everywhere that your market is hanging out. So let's focus on that. in terms of online, offline, do you know where interior designers hang out? Let's focus online. Do you know where they hang out online?
They're on Instagram a lot. And so I've tried to increase my presence on Instagram. But it's funny because I look at, they're posting these beautiful pictures and these nice, everything that they post is so beautiful. And Instagram is very visual, obviously. So my challenge is like, how do I make a post that they're going to look at that isn't beautiful interior design? Because that's not what I do. So they definitely hang out on Instagram, and I'm trying to figure that one out.
Okay. All right. So one thing that I would want to know is okay, if I'm an interior designer and I'm looking at other interior designers, is this kind of do they seem to be collaborative where they're like encouraging each other and like going, oh, that's awesome, I like that idea? Does that kind of seem to be where they're, talking to one another through Instagram? Or is it more like, I'm an interior designer, I post this picture and clients or potential clients like it? Have you kind of noticed anything on that?
There's a lot of kind of going back and forth and sourcing. So, they'll post a beautiful kitchen or something, and then they'll tag the designer of the lights, or, and so it's kind of like everybody. And then they also are doing some of that to sell to their clients. But there's also a lot of, hey, which one do you guys like better? And designers will comment this or that, so kind of both.
Okay. All right. So if I were on Instagram, and again, this is just me kind of going off the cuff here, right? So if I were on Instagram, I would want to be presenting pictures that are kind of like what they're doing, that grabs their attention, right? Now, obviously, you're not trying to hoodoo them and make them think that they're going to click on something that's about, the message, the words that are on that post or on that picture, they need to be about what it is that you do and how you serve. But if that's what they're focusing on and that's what they look and pay attention to, then that's what I want to put in front of them.
Okay.
Now, most people who see it won't pay any attention to it because they're not in that frame of mind. But you're not looking for thousands and thousands of people to look at it. You're looking at a few every month to be looking at something that you're producing. And you get this cascading effect when you have thousands of pictures and posts that are out there that are going to attract people to you. You never know when there are going to be a need for you. But that's one of the things that I would want to do on Instagram. What about are they on Houzz? Are they on what's the other one? Pinterest? Are they on those as well?
Yes, they're on Houzz. They're on Pinterest. Houzz is kind of like they have a love-hate with Houzz, it seems. But yes, and they also have Facebook groups, which I've been fortunate in that some of their Facebook groups have accepted me, and so I kind of sit there and watch. And if anybody asks a bookkeeping question, I am sure to answer. And I've actually met designers and gotten clients that way as well.
Okay, awesome. So again, this is kind of having an omnipresence within your industry, within your niche. So being a part of those groups, right? If I want to say, golly, I saw Elizabeth over here and she posted something in Facebook, in Instagram, and then I see her here in this Facebook group, it has this appearance that you're everywhere. But the only thing you really did was select a niche, and you figured out where they're hanging out. And they're hanging out on Instagram, and they're hanging out in these Facebook groups.
Okay.
So now imagine you were trying to do that with photography, right? And trying to be in the photography groups too. Now it's a whole lot more difficult, and you can't remember what you did over here and what you're saying over there. And I'm a different voice here than I am there. But it's going to make it more of a laser process. Think of this like a rifle versus a shotgun approach.
Okay.
So that is one thing. Now, so a couple of other things. Building authority is very powerful. And let's talk about some ways in which you can do that, some tactics. I'm not saying that you have to, but I think that these are some of the ways. Number one is building that brand, that name. And this is not going to come overnight. So don't think that you're going to, this is just instantly going to come to you. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, but just kind of identifying your voice. So that if I'm reading something that you've put out there, if I'm listening to you, I know that it's you without having to hear your actual physical audible voice. I just know that it's you. I know that you would write this, and that if I read something else, I would be like, that's not her. Now, all this stuff I'm saying that people are thinking on a conscious level, they're not. It goes into their subconscious. But you're building up this magnetism right? And we know that a magnet can attract and it can also detract. And that's exactly what you want to do here. So building that up is one of the first things. The second thing to do is that I would love for you to create some framework for your interior design clients and potential interior design clients. And what I mean by that, something that you could label like the interior designer's palette. And this is horrible. I'm not very good at this. I always have to rely on others. But some sort of framework that you can say, it's kind of like what we do here on these podcasts, right? We have a step approach where we say, hey, your challenge is about strategy, it's about team, it's about execution, or it's about profitability. So immediately I can label what it is that you're experiencing. And this right here is strategy because it's about marketing, it's about your niche, it's about higher level type of things. You can do the same sort of thing with your business and creating some sort of simple framework in which you can place any problem that they have or need that they have or gain that they want inside of this framework. So what you're doing basically here, Elizabeth, is you're creating your own terminology, your own way of speaking. Does that ring any bells? Is that making sense?
Yes, it does. Well, I mean, it's because too, like, each niche faces their own problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
yes.
Like a landscaper doesn't have the same problems as an interior designer, night and day. So what you're saying is to, build a framework that the interior designers would fit in, that their problems would fit in, and be able to solve those.
Absolutely. So that's one way right there. Another thing is, what are the absolutes that you believe for that industry? Like not, hey, I think you should have a bookkeeper. No, like absolutes. Like, hey, if you're doing bookkeeping on your own and you're an interior designer, you're a dumb person. I mean, you don't say it that way, but that's an absolute because that's something that you believe, right? Because absolutes that we maintain, kind of who you maintain as a brand, immediately is authoritative. Okay. And these are genuine, right? You're not just coming up with these. So one of the things, for example, that we use in working with bookkeeping professionals is that one of our absolutes, and I'll get all kinds of fodder and bad mail in this, and I really don't care. But if you're presenting cash basis financial statements, that's akin to reading the National Enquirer to get your news. There's a little bit of truth and a whole bunch of lies. If you're not presenting the statement of cash flows to your clients, you're doing them a disservice. Those are two absolutes that we maintain. I catch so much grief for those two, and I really don't care because I firmly believe that. But that's a perfect example. I'm attracting people who are going, yeah, that's exactly right. And then over here, people are going, well, he's a dumbass. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He says that you have to blah, blah, blah. Fine. You're not our people. You're not our tribe. But those are the absolutes that you maintain. Okay. And you may have 3, you may have 5, but these are things that you're telling to your clients that you firmly believe get them success. And I firmly believe that. I've experienced and I see, and I've reverse engineered what bad bookkeeping and bad record keeping is all about. And those are two of the things that stand out to be paramount to everything else. But that's something that you want to do. That kind of, okay. All right. Any questions on that?
No, makes sense.
Okay. So that's another way. All right. So we're building this brand. We're focusing on this niche. We're in every group that we can be. We're posting on Instagram. We have these absolutes. There are other things that we can do. So I'm just going to throw some things out here. You don't have to do any of these. I just want you to kind of start to think in this vein. What I'm doing right here with you, a podcast, right? This establishes authority with me and with bookkeeping professionals, right? Because I'm speaking to just bookkeeping professionals or aspiring bookkeeping professionals too. And so it gives me a great place, a book, to write a book, to have a blog. And it's not like an either or, it's kind of a whole circle, right? Because what we do now is we have this podcast and we take that and we get the audio, we create emails, we create blog content. We're able to stay in front of people in a lot of different ways by creating it once. So it's not like, what I like to do is figure out what's my best way of recording content. And for me, it's video. Okay, it's standing in front of a video. We have a videographer that comes or doing something like this where I'm more talking off the cuff and talking experiential based rather than scripted, but creating this content machine that you really only have to do it once. And you have other people, writers, transcriptionists that take care of the other things for you. that makes it so much easier. So your means may be writing, actually writing, and maybe speaking like what we're doing here, maybe video, whatever the case may be. Pick your favorite media, the one that you can just do all the time, and start creating this content machine.
Okay.
Now that's kind of secondary, right? I mean, you can do a blog, you can do a book, you can do a podcast, getting in these groups. It's not an either or approach. It's kind of an everything in this case. But just by making that one simple shift over to just doing interior designers, you've made this so much easier on yourself. And in the end, you're actually going to provide a much better service to your client.
Right. No, you're right. That's one thing I noticed. We earlier talked about a day in the life. You only have so much time to focus on that stuff. And, especially as you grow and you get more clients and they have more questions, and they tend to come to you for more things. So you're busier. You don't have as much time. So I think that's great. We often talk a lot about, finding your who. And that when you were talking about that, that's what I was thinking is, I have to find a way to get it out of my brain and then find my who to help me get it out there.
Yeah. And when you've done this for 3 or 4 years, and I'll just show you, well, I don't have, it's over here. Obviously we're on video. People can't see that. They're just hearing it, but I've got 48 pages over here of notes, and I ask in the group, and you may have seen this post, why did you start your bookkeeping business? Those are not, I don't just put those in there just because, I want everybody to do. They're very inspirational, but they're always, to me, a great place for me. I can almost tell you what's going to come out of your mouth when I ask you a question about your business, because I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of students just like you, right? So I can almost tell you the words that are going to come out of your mouth. I almost feel like I know you better than I know myself. And that's when you know that, you never arrived, but that's when you know that you're doing it right. That whatever I say, I know that I'm addressing your needs, your wants, rather than those of my own. Just because I've studied you, and I haven't studied a whole bunch of other people over here. I don't work with, accountants. We have accountants that are with us, but that's not our market. Our market is bookkeeping professionals. We made the decision to be in that lane and not talk to accountants, even though I am one. But the bread and butter of my business was working with the bookkeeping professionals and making that the very best machine that we could make it. But all these different things just kind of start to establish you as an authority. Now, kind of as a tactical level, like what are things that you can do right now to start attracting that ideal client? Well, number one, we've determined our niche. Number two, reverse engineering your most ideal client, talking with her or him. I don't want to say that all interior designers are female, but talking with him or her all the time. Set aside, with those 4 clients that you have that are interior designers, set aside another 15, 20 minutes with the next call that you have with them and say, I just want to pick your brain. I want to understand from their approach, like how do we work together? How do I serve you better? What is it that you really wanted? What do you want now? What are your dreams about the future? Like just getting them to open up, not about bookkeeping, but like who they are as a person. Why did they start this business? What are the words that they use? All these different things just start to, they just soak into your brain, and you wake up almost thinking like they think. But work that in there too, so where you can just really start to pay attention. And one thing I like to do is to record those calls, obviously get their permission, get them transcribed, and start to build up this dossier, if you will, of transcripts and all this, and reading over it constantly. Is that helping?
No, that helps. Yeah, that helps a lot. You really need to know knowing your ideal client helps you create the best product for them. So that makes complete sense.
So when an interior designer asks something that is in your wheelhouse in a group, she may say one thing, but she's really asking another, and you address that one, and she's like, holy crap, how was she thinking one step ahead of me? Well, because I talked to you all day long, or somebody like you all day long. I know you. And they're like, oh my gosh, please become my bookkeeping professional, right? Now then it becomes like really weeding out, and you're in a very good position where you don't have to have any new clients. So you can be picky about the ones that you do serve. And I would suggest that you do that. And, if you're not saying no to probably about, at least a third, 40% of them, then we need to do something about that, raise our prices, become more targeted in who we're serving and all that. But you're in a very good position right now. But in the meantime, it's getting in there and just answering questions in the group, right? It's being in front. Do interior designers have some sort of professional organization that is bent towards the business side of things?
They do have professional organizations. I don't know if any of them are particularly just towards business and not as much towards design. So I've reached out to some of the more design, and groups, and they've been tough to get response back from. So I think I'll look more into if there are any of the more business focused ones and see if I can find them.
All right. So here's one thing on that: be a bulldog. Like, you can't email them once. Email them. Not make them tell you to shut up or answer your question. All right. Yeah, it'll piss some people off. Who cares?
Yeah.
But also, I always like to figure out: do I have a mutual connection? I want to get introduced to somebody rather than just trying to bull myself in there. So I always want to think smart. But at the end of the day, if I want to talk to somebody, I'm going to make them tell me to shut up, get away, get out of my. You're spamming me, or okay, I'll talk to you. What do you want? Right? I mean, we're all busy. It's not like most of them are probably not ignoring you, but they're like, okay, inbox, don't know this person, that I'll put away until Sunday, and then they never get to it.
Later.
Yeah, the later effect. So, be a bulldog on those things. Be a bulldog. Don't take no for an answer. Make them tell you. Make them tell you no. And people don't want to do that, though. But yeah, those things right there are just they're going to pay off in spades. I had another thought that I was going to, another suggestion I was going to tell you. I've got my pad here and I didn't write it down. But, I think that by doing this, you are going to, you're going to get some lasting effects. But again, don't expect this to happen in the next 30 days.
Right.
Expect it to be more of it may be 90 days, it may be 6 months before you start seeing an ROI on this. Do you like doing online presentations? Have you ever done one like that?
Like a video presentation? No, I have not.
Okay. How's that make you feel? I see you. How's that make you feel about doing something like that?
Pretty nervous, but I definitely see that it would have its benefits, for sure. I remember when I was looking at Bookkeeper Business Launch, the fact that you had videos and I could kind of feel like you were talking to me. Was important.
I would go. So again, this is just more intel. I would be going to their websites and see what kind of websites did they have. What are the aesthetics of it? And I would want mine to mirror who my clients, so that they see that and go, in their subconscious, like, this is my person, right? If it looks like it's built for a mathematician, that's probably not going to be for them. So building everything around that. I would think that they're very aesthetically, aesthetics appealing, creative, all that stuff is who they are. And if you're able to speak more on their level and less bookkeeping-ish, if that's a word, we just made it one, then you're going to be seen as one of them and not an outsider.
Right.
And then, the last thing I'll tell you is that go inside a Bookkeeper Business Launch, look and go through and do the LinkedIn training and do the email outreach, because those two things together are very powerful. They're a dynamic duo, if you will, of using email outreach, doing research on LinkedIn to find these individuals that you want to work with. But it's going to be a lot easier now for you.
Yes, it will be. Thank you. This is all
a lot simpler, not easier.
Yeah. No, yeah, but it's all great advice. I mean, it's nice to have a plan, right? I mean, anytime you feel like you're not just out there blowing in the wind and you have an actual plan to execute, it definitely helps you along the way. Awesome.
Well, good. Let's kind of wrap up the show here, Elizabeth. Let's talk about action items. I was trying to mix the words Elizabeth and actions and got Ashley out of it somehow. This is what goes through my mind. Let's talk about your action items. So what are you going to do as a result of our call here today?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is create my avatar, which I should have done by now. I know better. But to really create my avatar so I know who I'm targeting. Then I'm going to spend some time talking to my clients and, finding out what it is that what they're truly looking for. And from those conversations, I'm going to work on my absolutes. So, for me, I think those absolutes really have to tie into what the designers are looking for them to have value. And then I'm also going to change my website and remove the photographer bit.
Okay. Yeah.
That's up there on my list of things to do. And then I'm looking at my notes here. And probably the next thing I'm probably going to do is sit down and devise a plan to do the establishment authority, because I do find that takes a lot of time. And I think, when you're speaking about doing it once and then replicating it in other forms, I do need to determine what my most efficient way of recording that is, whether it's writing or videoing or whatever. I think that's where I'm going to start.
Awesome. All right. Well, anything else that I can do for you today here, Elizabeth?
No. The only thing that I do want to share with the audience is there's a lot of times that I see moms that join the bookkeeping group, and they'll refer to themselves as, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I go out and I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I got 2 clients by changing my mindset. And when I would go out, I would say, I have a bookkeeping business. I'm an advisory bookkeeper. And people would assume that I was a stay-at-home mom because I'm available. I can go to things. And then when I changed my mindset and I started saying, I own a bookkeeping business, I own this type of business, I got clients that way. It's pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I just
thought I would share that bit.
Oh, and that's the thing about business ownership. It's a mindset shift that has to occur in order to have that success, and it's continual. It's not like you made that one shift and like everything was great. It's another one that you always say. It's like climbing up a mountain. You get to the top and you're like, crap, there's another one right here, but it's fun because you're continuing to progress and get better. So that's some very good advice, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And thanks for playing along with us here today.
Thank you for having me and talking to me about this stuff. I appreciate it.
Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks. Be a